Good day and welcome to another week of A Week at the Plot on a Monday afternoon. And as you can most probably see, it's really pretty overcast. It's been quite grey all day. And despite it being 24 degrees and there being quite a cool breeze, it's still feeling a bit humid down here. And I haven't done any watering yet. I'll be doing that afterwards. But it's now the 18th of August, and I have to say, in many respects, the plot feels as though it's like mid-September rather than mid-August. And that, I suppose, has got me thinking about certain things. And one of those things was to harvest our lavender, because the lavender plants have done really well this year. The lavender's really great. But before we do have any rains, I want to take the flowers off and put them into the greenhouse, which I did yesterday on Sunday, because I don't want them to get wet and then have to dry off again. So it was a decent day yesterday. I went into the, well, not into the lavender, but I went to the lavender, and with my secateurs, I grabbed the stems of various of the flowers, segment by segment, if you like, and then snip them down at the bottom. And I did that with all three. I filled up a huge paper bag that I had, and now they're all drying in the greenhouse, which is really great. That greenhouse, the door is left slightly ajar. It's got slats on it which open. There's a window at the top which is covered with shade cloth but is still open. So there's a flow of air going through. So it will be good for, it's a good drying environment basically. And just as it happens every year when the weather begins to turn that little bit, I mean, I'm hoping we're going to have an Indian summer, but it's already feeling as though it's turning, and it sets my mind to thinking about seed saving. There, particularly in our tomatoes this year, there are a number that I do want to save. I've not grown 3 of the varieties before, and I want to save seed because I want to grow them again. The good thing about saving your own seed is that the plants that have grown have obviously grown in your environment, in your soil, with the temperatures that you've had, the weather that you've had, and they've sort of become acclimatized to that just this year. So if you save those seeds and you sow them again next year, those seeds become further acclimatized to your plot, your local region, in fact, you know, virtually your local allotment area, if you like. So by doing this, not only are we saving money, but we're also growing plants that hopefully have become well acclimatized to our own soil and the weather that we have, the sunlight that we have, you know, all of that type of thing. So hopefully they'll grow stronger year by year and produce better and better year by year. Now, when you are saving seed, with things like lettuce, you want to save seed from your best plant of lettuce. And if you've got 2 varieties, you don't want to let them both go to seed in the same year. Very often the lettuce, if you let one lettuce go to seed, the bees and other pollinators will pollinate that whole plant, and you will get seeds that are true to the plant, usually, unless it's an F1 or an F2 variety. With an open pollinated variety, the lettuce that you save seed from, as long as you just have one growing and you don't have lots of lettuce growing on fellow neighbours' plots and going to seed at the same time, you will get seed that is relatively true to the plant that has grown, which is what we want, which is why we like open pollinated varieties. With things like tomatoes that bear a fruit, or beans and peas, those things, they obviously, I mean, beans and peas have pods and the seed is in that pod. When you're saving seeds from plants like that, what you want to make sure is that you are saving seeds from the best plant that has grown of the variety you want to save seed from. So we have in a case here, we're sowing a new tomato to us. 5 plants have grown, and one has grown far better than the rest and is really producing much better than the rest. So we're going to be saving seeds from that plant. And what I'm then going to look at is which tomato on that plant is the best tomato that I can see. And I'm going to save seed from that tomato. There's no point when you're with beans and peas, things like that. The best thing to do is not to randomly pick dried pods off your plant and say, right, I'm going to save those. The best thing to do is to look again at the best plant that has grown. And then if you've got 3 plants that have grown really, really well, look at the one that has produced the best harvest or the heaviest harvest, and decide that you're going to save seed from that one, because hopefully those traits will be present in what you sow next year. Anyway, I've been waffling on. It's a sparrowhawk. Oh, dearie me, that's a sparrowhawk. Get too excited about things. Let me get excited about our tomato patch. Just looking at our tomatoes now, and I know there are a couple of varieties of tomatoes in here that A, I haven't grown before, and B, I would like to save seed from. Now, most tomatoes are self-fertile, so the pollen will effectively pollinate itself, or the pollen will use itself to pollinate the flower. Occasionally you will get cross pollination between tomatoes, but generally the pollen falls within the flower that it has formed from, and therefore a plant that, or a seed that will produce a plant that is true, will develop from that. So I'm not sure with the 3 that I want to save whether that is the case, but I'm going to go along with that because I don't know really what their names are apart from one. So I already have seed for Amish paste. I already have seed for black crim. I already have seed for the Isle of Wight yellow because we saved that last year. But the ones that I'm looking at now are this Croatian plum here, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants going down the middle of that. And then over here I've got no idea what this one is, but it's a rather nice tomato. And then right at the end, over on the other side, we have that Czech orange tomato, which is rather lovely. Oh, sorry, kicking there. So I've harvested 1, 2, I think 3 from here already. There's this one coming if it forms, and there's another 2 up here, and this plant is still growing well. This is the only plant we've got, so I'm obviously going to harvest seed from one of these fruits. And in fact, I've already chosen a fruit at home which is further ripening on our windowsill. So this one will just be plain eaten. When it comes to these, you can see this plant has done relatively well, but the one next to it, which is the same, is actually growing much taller. In fact, look, I need to take that out. Oh dear. There, only one growing tip. So here we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trusses, and in fact look, on the 7th truss there's a fruit forming. So what I'm going to do is let one of these fruits on this one really get as ripe as possible on the plant, and then I'll use that one for seed saving, simply because the plant itself here is a much better plant than this one here. This one's good, and if this was the only one that I had, I'd be saving seeds from this. But because the plant next to it is the same variety and it's grown much taller and it's got more fruit trusses on it that have developed, I'm going to go for that one. And then, oh, we need to go around the other way because the bees are on the marjoram. Coming over to the Czech Roma style. This one here, I mean, it's got two really, in fact down there's three really decent trusses all together. And I actually broke a growing stem, broke off the top here, so that's why it hasn't grown as well. Interestingly, we've lost the growing stem on this one, and this one as well. I don't know why. So basically the leader that was growing, if we look at this plant, this is your main bit that's going to grow up. On 4 of them, it broke off in the wind, and I'm not quite sure why. If we come over to this one, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, definitely 5, actually 6 trusses that have got some fruit on them. So what I'm going to do is, this is the best plant of the ones we have of this variety. I'm going to save the seed from one of these tomatoes. And again, I'm going to let one of them, most probably the one that is slightly hiding through there, I'm going to let that one, I'm not going to harvest that one, I'm going to let it ripen as much as possible. It may even fall off, and when it falls off I'll then take it home and save seeds from it. But the important thing to remember when you're seed saving is you're not just looking at what individual fruit might be the best, but if you've got several plants, you're looking at which plant is the best, and you sort of want to save the fruit, the best fruit on the best plant of each variety that you have. That's what I'm trying to say. With the Isle of Wight yellow, as I say, we've got some at home. So I won't worry about that. We've also got this lettuce here, which is fabulous. It's from the Morton Secret Mix from Real Seeds, and this one is particularly tasty. We've got quite a few from Morton Secret Mix, and one over here. This one here is incredibly tasty too. So what I'm going to do, in fact, actually, this one is a really tasty one. All of them are really good, but that one's really tasty. But the thing is, these lettuce seeds, I think, would cross-pollinate more than the tomatoes, much more than the tomatoes. So if I had this one, if I let this one go to seed to collect, or to go to flower, to form seed, to collect seed from it, and I let that one there do the same, it's very likely they would cross-pollinate. What would happen is I might end up with a really lovely new type of lettuce, or I might not. I might end up with a type of lettuce which isn't great. So in terms of lettuce, I'm just going to allow one of these 3, this one over here behind there, or this one, or that one, go to seed this year. And you can see in my Lolo Beyonder, which are already forming, they're already going to seed, they're already, or were already forming a spire to go up and flower. I've taken them off. And what I found with Lolo Beyonder is, as long as you carry on watering them in this state, they taste absolutely fabulous. But yeah, you can see we've got a lot of lettuce. This one, these 2, you can see this is beginning to put on growth, and this one here is as well, and that one. these are going up to flower. So actually this week at some point I'm going to be taking both of these out and giving them to a plot holder who's got chickens. And this one here as well, this one has actually started bolting. We haven't harvested from this one yet. It's already started bolting, so I'm going to take this one out as well. Yeah, let's just have a look at some of our French beans. You may remember these are our dwarf beans, and we've got 3 varieties here. We've got 2 rows of a flat French yellow, 2 rows of Rocancourt, and then 2 rows of Borlotti at the back. The Borlotti I will leave to either go completely dry or demi-sec, so semi-dry. Semi-dry ones will be podded and go in the freezer, and dried ones will be harvested sort of slightly differently, and I'll come on to that when I do. But the others, because I have seeds of Rocancourt, I'm not going to save any seeds this year of Rocancourt. However, this flat French, I have found this particularly nice this year. So I've been looking at which plant is the best plant, and they've all sort of done relatively well. But this one here, I can lift this one up. Can you see that? Is a bigger plant in itself and has produced really well. There's quite a few pods on there, and there's quite a few pods coming. There's quite a few flowers on there. So I think what I'm going to do, well, I know what I'm going to do, is I'm going to mark up this plant to not harvest from it. And the harvest that I do get from this plant will be at the end of the growing season, and I'll be harvesting these pods to depod them and save the seed inside for growing again next year. So yeah, I could do it with the Rocancourt because a few of them have produced really well. You can see that one has produced pretty well compared to some others. So is that one there. But I don't think I need Rocancourt seeds. Yeah, so always remember, look at your best plant, and then look, if it's like a fruiting variety like tomatoes, at the best fruit on that plant to save seed from. There we are, a little bit of seed saving chat for you. And I'm now going to get on and do some watering. The breeze has really sort of quite picked up in the last, I don't know, 20 minutes or half an hour since I did the first bit of this week's A Week at the Plot. It really has. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to get on and water. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. Pretty blustery today. Gosh, the growth here is pushing these up a bit. These are our turnips, and they really need to go in. They should have gone in a little while ago, and I've decided that the best place for these to go is with our squash. But at the moment we've got cucumbers in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cucumbers out. I've left the cucumbers growing in there because I've got a kids gardening session in about 2 or 3 weeks time, and I thought it would be good to do a seed saving session, and cucumbers are a really good thing to save seeds from. It sort of explains the process when you do it really well. I'll link back to a video I did a couple of years ago on that. But yeah, I think the thing is now though, it's best to get these in and get the cucumbers out. The cucumbers aren't going to give me food again this year, but these certainly will do if they go in. These are the beds I'm going to put them in, and as you know, we've got some uchiki curry squash in here. They're growing, as you can see through there. Another one there. In fact, what I do need to do is take that length off. Oh look, there's another one down through there as well. But what we've also got in here is cucumbers, as I mentioned there. And yeah, it's just for this kids session that I'm saving these. So what I'm going to do is take all of the cucumbers out now, and then wherever there's a space, I'm going to plant the turnips. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I was just thinking of something else, but no, this is the most sensible thing to do. Right, cucumbers out and turnips in. That's our turnips in and watered. As I say, they could have gone in quite a while ago. I think next time when I sow turnips, I'll sow them in our smaller modules, because I find their roots don't develop quite as quickly as beetroots. But yeah, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to make a note and remember that. My concern with these is they might suddenly go, oh, we got lots of ground to grow in, and they might really start growing and start bolting. But fingers crossed they don't. If they do, I might just turn them in as a green manure. Anyway, we'll see, we'll see. And oh, big plane going over. Yeah, so we're left with squash, uchiki curry in here, and here as well. There's two in here. I mean, there are other things in here, including weeds, so I will deal with those another day, tomorrow maybe. In fact, tomorrow I think, because I'll be down here. But you can see how breezy it is. Anyway, I need to water. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. It's Friday afternoon and it is rather hot again. We were 11 degrees overnight last night, and now we're about 25 or 26 degrees. And there's hardly any breeze and it really does feel quite warm. I've been working in the poly doing some cuttings, and boy did it feel sort of humid in there. But I was down this morning and I wasn't going to do a segment today. I was going to do one over the weekend, but I started doing a couple of things, and I brought some food, some peelings down for our wormery. And when I went to put it in, I noticed that the casts in the wormery were really quite moist stroke wet. And I thought, oh, I haven't drained that for absolutely ages. Why haven't I done that? So I got on with draining it, and I got, this is worm tea. I got, there were 6 of these plus another 2 litres. I think that's 1.5 litres. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 litres out of our wormery. Bad pull, because that's really not good for the cedrics and the cedrichetas to thrive and, you know, do what I want them to do, which is create lots of worm casts and worm tea. But there are still plenty of worms in there, and it's really drying off. But anyway, I'm going to take you back to this morning when I thought, oh, I better film this. Bit of ground has fallen in whilst I was doing that. Never mind, it'll float and I can take it out because it's so dry at the back here. We're at the back by our compost, our pallet compost bin, and this is where the wormery is. And I just haven't decanted the wormery for far too long. So this is worm tea. This is liquids that have come out from the wormery, as you can see with that tap. and the worms have been going through all of our sort of kitchen waste. Not all of our kitchen waste goes into here, quite a lot, most goes into a compost bin, but some, not onions and not garlic and things like that, but some goes into here and the worms feed on it. But I've been very remiss. I've just fed them now, and I could see that the compost in here was really quite damp, and I just sort of suddenly thought, hang on, you haven't drained it for ages. This is really ages. And the other problem is that I've had to dig a hole down to put something underneath, because when I did originally do this, I didn't lift it off the ground, which I think would have been the best thing, like a water, but I didn't. Anyway, yeah, there's quite a lot draining out. Let me put that into a tub. I'm going to empty it as much as I can. That was this morning, about 10:30, 11 o'clock, something like that. Went home to lunch, came back, and the weekend and today is just pottering and a few sort of bigger jobs, really. I was in the greenhouse and I saw that there's quite a few shoots coming off the cucumbers, and as we're late in the season with those, because they were sown really late, and I'm hoping that we'll have an Indian summer and they'll go on quite late. Because they're late, I don't want energy going into lots of shoots. I'd rather it just goes into the main leader. So I've taken one large shoot off each, what side shoot off each of the cucumbers. So I did that this morning. So pleased about that. And not this morning, just now, about an hour ago. And then I also decided that I was going to take back the shrub honeysuckle, the tree honeysuckle as I call it. I haven't taken it back really that low or as low as I took it for many years. And I really did take off quite a few growing trunks almost of it. There's one trunk there that I've left because it's a scratching post for cats, so I've left it there. And all the detritus that has come off, that I'm going to cut it up and put it into our compost bin, because those sticky bits, you know, twiggy bits, they're really good for making sure that your compost is well aerated. So I'm going to be cutting all of that up this afternoon. I also, earlier in the week, cut back our dead and dying shoots of our blackberry, our cultivated blackberry, but there's plenty of shoots already coming up for next year, so that's really good. With the going back, to the tree honeysuckle, I decided to take some cuttings of that, so I've taken 8 cuttings. I'm not sure they will come to anything, we'll wait and see, but I've taken 8. If they don't, I will be doing some more in the spring when there's softwood, because I think they will root much quicker. But you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I've taken a huge lot off that. I still need to look at it and do some shaping, but I thought, yeah, excuse me, why not do some cutting? So 8 cuttings taken. They're going to stay in the polytunnel for the time being. And I also took some cuttings of basil yesterday, so they're in the greenhouse as well. No, they're not. They're in the polytunnel. It's hot. I'm not thinking very well. And what else am I going to do? Well, the worm tea reminded me that I've got nettle tea brewing, which I need to strain. So I'll be doing that over the weekend as well. So there's quite a few little jobs that I'm going to be doing over the weekend. I don't think I'll get on to doing the cuttings of the Santolina quite yet. I'll do those maybe next week. Yeah, I think I'll do those next week. Though I might cut the seed heads off. If the mood takes me over the weekend, I might cut the seed heads off and just tidy them a little bit. And I've just seen a squirrel running off with somebody's plot neighbour's pear. I'd seen it in their pear tree, and yeah, it's just run off with a pear. There we are. Anyway, yeah, quite an eclectic week again this week. It did feel really quite like autumn, but because it was really cool over the last few days. As I say, 11 degrees overnight last night. But we are apparently in a fool's autumn, like we get a fool's spring. We're sort of in a fool's autumn, and certainly with the pumpkins beginning to die back and tree leaves beginning to brown, quite a few things already going to seed. It does feel as though we're in autumn. And then I get to today, and today feels like the middle of summer again. It's extraordinary. That stress of the lack of water that we've had for plants, you know, we can't water all our trees and things. It really has affected and brought about that false autumn. But hey ho, that's what happens. More bottles going into the recycling across the road at the Fox. Anyway, I am going to leave it here for this week's A Week at the Plot. A little longer than I'd expected it to be. I thought it would be relatively short, but I've waffled on here quite a lot. So I hope you do watch it. And if you do get to the end, then please say bananas. Any comments, any questions, any suggestions, please do leave them down below. And over the next few days, all I'm going to do is pottering. And if there's anything that crops up that is relevant, I'll record it and show you next week. But yeah, that's it for now. Whatever is happening in your garden, your growing space or your allotment, I hope you are enjoying it. I've certainly enjoyed my time at the plot this week. I've done a few things that I didn't intend to do. I think I always do. I certainly didn't intend to cut down the tree honeysuckle, but I'm really glad that I have. So yeah, who knows what the next few days or the next few weeks will bring. What I do know is on the 1st of September, we dive into meteorological autumn. There we are. See you very soon, and happy growing. Bye.